Right now, 3 American aircraft carriers are operating in the same war zone. The USS Gerald R. Ford, America's newest supercarrier. The USS Carl Vinson, a combat veteran. And the USS Nimitz, pulled from the Pacific. This level of naval concentration hasn't happened in the Middle East since the Iraq War. And it's not routine deployment rotation. This is a deliberate show of overwhelming force. What's driving this unprecedented surge? And what does it reveal about the threats America's Navy is facing? It started in November 2023. Yemen's Houthi rebels, armed by Iran, declared they would attack any vessel connected to Israel. The world thought it was bluster. It wasn't. Between November 2023 and January 2025, the Houthis attacked over 100 merchant ships. They sank 2 vessels, killed 4 sailors, and paralyzed the Red Sea, a waterway that carries 15% of global trade. U.S. Navy destroyers suddenly found themselves in sustained combat. The USS Carney intercepted dozens of drones and cruise missiles, not in drills, but in real combat. Sailors described watching incoming threats on radar and having seconds to respond. This wasn't a one-time strike mission. This was daily defensive warfare, something the Navy hasn't experienced since World War II. And the Navy was stretched dangerously thin. The USS Harry S. Truman deployed in September 2024 for a standard 6-month rotation. 5 months later, it was still there, deep in the Red Sea, launching daily strikes against Houthi positions. But the deployment took a brutal toll. In February, Truman collided with a cargo ship. The Navy fired its commanding officer. Then came the aircraft losses, 3 F/A, 18 Super Hornets in just 3 months. And when the crew thought they were finally heading home, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth extended their deployment. Twice. By the time Truman left the Red Sea in May, sailors had been deployed for 8 months, 2 months longer than planned, in continuous combat. But the mission wasn't over. It was escalating. In March, the Pentagon ordered the USS Carl Vinson, operating in the Pacific, to divert to the Middle East. Then in June, the USS Gerald R. Ford deployed from Norfolk, and the USS Nimitz canceled a Vietnam port visit and steamed toward the Persian Gulf. By July 2025, 3 carrier strike groups were positioned within striking distance of Yemen and Iran. This was unprecedented. The Navy typically avoids concentrating multiple carriers in one region because it strains logistics, exhausts crews, and pulls assets from other theaters, especially the Pacific, where China remains the primary threat. But the Pentagon deemed it necessary. On March 15, 2025, President Trump authorized Operation Rough Rider, an air campaign using overwhelming lethal force to dismantle Houthi capabilities. The strikes were relentless. By early May, American forces had hit over 1,000 targets across Yemen. Missile depots, drone facilities, command centers, radar installations, carrier-based F/A, 18 Super Hornets delivered precision munitions. Destroyers fired Tomahawk cruise missiles, and Air Force bombers struck from Diego Garcia. But the Houthis kept attacking. They adapted tactics, moved launchers, and hid weapons in civilian areas. U.S. destroyers intercepted wave after wave of drones and missiles, sometimes 14 in a single day. This wasn't quick surgical strikes. This was sustained attrition warfare requiring constant naval presence. And it revealed a critical truth. The U.S. Navy is too small for the missions it's being asked to perform. The activation of 3 carrier strike groups in the same theater sends a clear message to Iran, to China, to Russia. America can project overwhelming naval power anywhere, anytime. But it also reveals vulnerabilities. Middle East carrier deployments accounted for 41% of steaming days in 2024, up from just 8% the year before. That's a 5-fold increase in a single year. Extended deployments strain maintenance schedules. Crews face exhaustion and psychological stress. And pulling carriers from the Pacific weakens deterrence against China, the Pentagon's top priority. The U.S. Navy is answering the call. Sailors are doing their duty. Families are making sacrifices. But the question remains, how long can they sustain this? The fleet is approximately 290 ships, far below the goal of 355. Building new ships takes decades. But the threats are happening now. The Red Sea has become a laboratory for 21st century naval warfare. And every adversary is watching, learning from every engagement, every tactic, every response. This fleet activation isn't just about Yemen. It's about demonstrating American resolve in an era when naval dominance can no longer be taken for granted. And the world is watching to see if the Navy can sustain it.